Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of a Cinema A to B. Alec, on the docket today, we've got Air, the Ben Affleck directed story of Nike closing the deal.
Yep.
With old MJ here. So why don't you kick us off?
So I saw this in my own home and didn't get to the theaters for it, but I'm going to say, obviously, kind of know the ending to the story. So, I mean, try not to spoil it. But if you don't know, I don't know how, but that's beside the point. It was really good. Like, they paced it really well. They gave the, there was tension in the scenes. The acting was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. I mean, when you have Ben Affleck being probably the weakest link in the entire movie, like that's a fantastic cast by far. So other than that, I mean, shot wise, it was fine. It wasn't like I didn't walk away thinking, oh my goodness, this is the most beautiful movie I've ever seen. But it did a great job of focusing on the characters and kind of getting you to like feel like you're a part of the situation, feel like you're a part of being in the moment and kind of getting that energy, and the pacing was really right. So I did not expect high things from it, but I walked away entertained, really enjoyed it. Definitely think it's going to get a couple of noms, possibly like Viola Davis for Best Supporting Actress and a couple others. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was great. So
yeah, no, so we just watched this. Gwen and I did here at the house. Amazon Prime was running it. Yeah, and I had a ball with it. And my big thing is, this is my era of NBA basketball, or at least the front end of it.
Yeah.
So the NBA nerd in me was when they're running through the draft order for the 84 draft. And by the way, the 84 draft was sick. There are 4 like bona fide Hall of Famers in the 84 draft.
Yep.
And it was really funny, the whole hindsight 2020 thing, like looking at that draft, because you had Hakeem Olajuwon, and then you had Michael Jordan in the 3 spot, and then I think 5 or 6 was Barkley. Charles Barkley,
and then you had John Stockton at like 7?
Further down's John Stockton, right? And like they're talking trash about everybody, including Stockton. They're just like, oh, who's that? Yeah. Of course, he's top 3 point guard of all time. But that really cracked me up. I was just like, wow, we just, you take it for granted how hard it is to judge talent. To like, who are you going to try to close for your shoe deal?
Yeah.
And that was right in the beginning, and I was cracking up. So style wise, I was pleased with it. It looked era appropriate. There was some nice film grain in there. I haven't bothered to check to see whether they bothered to shoot film or if they added that later.
They added that later.
Yeah.
So what I read, I believe, is that they shot it on digital and then they printed it to film. And then kind of so
the old Doom.
But so the
old Doom method, yeah,
exactly. So, but it wasn't 35 millimeter. I think they shot it down to like 16 or something 16? To get that really grainy 80s feel. So which totally worked. I mean, like that opening sequence of when Damon's at the high school basketball, like just felt right in place. So
yeah, you get really big film grain when you shoot Super 16 millimeter, or if you print back to it. That's the beauty of that film stock. Yeah. That's what Band of Brothers was shot on, was Super 16, and then
it adds a little bit of something to it.
Yeah. There's some Darren Aronofsky is a well-known director that loves to shoot a lot of Super 16 for that very reason. It gives it this heavy grain, organic. I really enjoyed this. I can't think that Phil Knight is real happy with this movie. No. I mean, and like, I give so much props to Ben Affleck for basically being the giant butt of the joke of this movie.
Yeah.
Playing Phil Knight the way he does. And then, but you still get that great chemistry that you're always going to get with Affleck and Damon.
Yeah.
And, it's a wonder we haven't gotten more pairings with them, but I think they've even talked about it, that they've meant to team up. And it just hasn't happened, and it kind of got away from them.
When they're getting pulled into so many other things and so busy, and also like they've got kids now. I mean, it's it's very different. And I think they wanted to do something special together. My biggest joke is always going to be like, so now that Ben Affleck is directing this, is he going to harp on people following the script and making sure they're saying the lines in the script? Because he is absolutely terrible. Like everything I've read is that he barely ever says the line straight. He's always ad-libbing and adding things, making up jokes, going off on tangents and all this stuff. And like, so how is it on the other side? So.
Yeah, I don't know. He's an exceedingly talented director, though, right? Like
this is his third outing as director because he did The Town and then Argo, I believe, beforehand.
Oh, but there's more than that because he did Live by Night.
Yes, okay,
which didn't do well.
Totally.
But his track record now is really good. Like it's firmly established that Ben Affleck's a good director.
Yeah,
maybe even a better director than he is an actor at this point.
Mm-hmm. I would completely agree. I mean, I don't want to dog on him, but I have never thought he was an amazing actor. He's definitely a good actor. I mean, there's reasons why he's in these films, but he definitely doesn't hold a candle to Damon. Damon is just absolutely amazing. It's a reason why he, did the Bourne films and they rested on his shoulders, and he's done so much else where he's been the main character. Now, I will tell you one guy who really did impress me, or at least, he's been impressing me, but kind of felt held his own. So Jason Bateman, I love, and I've always seen him in TV shows, or he's always been in movies where he's kind of one of the leading guys. He's never been like the true leading guy to head up like a serious film or, something more, but he really stood toe to toe with Damon. And I kind of, in a lot of cases, my eyes were drawn more to Bateman than they were to Damon. And I was like, okay, somebody needs to give him his own movie and let him just sell it, something serious, dramatic, but
yeah, I mean, he, if nobody's seen Ozark,
oh, he's fantastic. In Ozark.
Yeah, he is fantastic. And he's shown that he has more range than what Hollywood and television have been offering him. And then the other pleasant surprise, I was just happy to see him, was Chris Tucker.
Yeah. Oh, and who was not playing himself at all, or at least wasn't the typical Chris Tucker. I was really happy to see him just act as this person. I mean, obviously there's some Tucker that comes out, but it's not like Fifth Element. It's not like Rush Hour. It's not that Chris Tucker. This is a acting Chris Tucker who's in a slightly dramatic but yet funny comedic role. So kind of he bridges that gap and does a really great job with it.
Yeah, and if to the best of my understanding, the Chris Tucker-ness that he brings in it is accurate to the real guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the reason he was cast. But his career's trajectory has been kind of interesting. And if I'm not mistaken, he's turned down a lot of roles in the past because he just didn't want to work in a bunch of stuff where his characters were expected to deliver a lot of coarse language.
Yeah.
Just a personal preference. And so, unfortunately, we haven't seen the guy in a long time. So he's, super pleasant surprise.
Well, supposedly what I read was that it was actually Michael Jordan who said Chris Tucker has to play him.
Well, then that's two actors.
Yes.
That he handpicked.
Yeah, it's two actors that he handpicked because I know the other one obviously is Viola Davis.
Well, Viola Davis is effectively what got the movie made.
Yeah. And by far, like when she comes on screen, even with Damon, like Viola is so much better. Like she just commands the screen. I mean, obviously some of it is the character in it, the two characters based up, but like the moment she's on, I'm just like, oh my goodness, you're fantastic. Just how you're handling yourself, everything done.
But this character was always the one in more of a position of power. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that you cast her. Yeah. That you cast Viola. Now who's the actor? Cause I recognized him. I don't know his name.
Oh, the agent
that plays James Jordan. Okay, this Julius Tennon, and I know I've seen him on other stuff. And when Damon walks up to the house and he's working on the car and he turns around, I was like, oh, what a nice casting decision.
Yeah. It looks like he could be Jordan's father. Definitely feels like that. Does not feel like it's bad casting at all.
For sure. So. Now, another performance that I want to single out, because I leaned over to Gwen. I try not to talk too much during movies, but this one was kind of, you're at home and Chris Messina that plays David Falk. I lean over to her because one of our favorite movies to watch together is Julie and Julia, where the girl cooks through Julia Child's cookbook, and Chris Messina plays the husband. And dude crushed it playing Falk. Like stole the scene, and every time he's on the phone was hilarious. And I was like, that's the husband. Yeah. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And he's turning in a really nice performance here. Very different from, he's kind of always happy-go-lucky, like kind of typecast. So he got to kind of flex his, I don't know. He's definitely channeling like Newsroom. Ari Gold.
Oh, there's definitely some Ari Gold in there.
Yeah. There was some Ari Gold phone ranting in there.
Yeah. See, for me, it was, I really relate him to Newsroom. So, and enjoy that. And so this character's a little bit more in that vein. So like for me, it wasn't obviously, it wasn't as big of a kind of like, oh my goodness, this is against type. Cause I'm like, this is kind of what you do. But I mean, still fantastic. Still like you said, held his own, laughed every time he was on screen. Just the banter between him and Damon was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I did want to bring up something I've mentioned before. I think when we discussed, Everything Everywhere All at Once, with the minimal locations that they shot on. And this is another one. And you could tell they spent their money where they needed to, which was building out that recreation of the Nike headquarters. And I could tell that they had built it out in like heavy detail, and it was a full set, like took up a full soundstage, because there were a couple moments near the middle and then the end where they physically move around heavily in the space, and you can't see the edge of the set. It just keeps going and going and going. And I thought that was really smart, because when you do that, then you don't have to be as picky with your camera shots and your camera angles. You can just kind of live in the moment and shoot it the way you want to shoot it. And this is a big, I was reading an article. This is effectively what Christopher Nolan's been doing his last several movies. And it's how he's shot Oppenheimer, because they built Los Alamos in full detail, the whole town and test bed. And it enabled him to just like almost run and gun the way that they shot it. And you could tell with this, they were able to do that with with everything that was at Nike. Super smart. Then you allow your actors to just play in the space. And that's what it felt like they were doing. And then, they got, you get the cutaways when they go to Wilmington. I'm pretty sure that was probably Georgia. I'm just guessing. They don't. Yeah. I love North Carolina. Shout out to North Carolina folks, because I know we've got some listeners from Carolina, but I wish they would have gone down to Wilmington. I don't think they did.
No, it's definitely
Georgia. Like Atlanta. But
the tax breaks are not anywhere near what Georgia's are. I'm going to tell you my favorite choice in this movie, and this is kind of spoilery, but not really. But I love the fact that you never see Jordan's face. Oh, yeah. Except for actual games or pictures of the real Michael Jordan. But the actor who plays it, you just see basically the back of his head, maybe a profile shot at best. And I loved that. Because this story, while kind of about him, is not about him. And you're never going to, everyone knows what he looks like. You're not going to get anyone who looks remotely like him. So they made a fantastic decision just to do it that way. And I thought that was
very good creative choice.
Yeah. So
now I'll try to speak around it, because I'm with you. I don't want to spoil too much of this stuff for people that have not seen this movie yet. And again, I would implore you to watch it on Prime. Give it a look. That speech, and I won't even say with a character that gives the speech, but the speech and the intercut, all the editing.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, knocked it out of the park. Yeah. The performance, first off, the script, the dialogue, and then the footage they cut over it. That was as emotionally a resonant moment in the whole thing. And it really hit right. They got it right. It wasn't like they overplayed their hand with that.
it was paced really well. They didn't try to rush through it, but they didn't try to elongate it. They just kind of kept going and kept hitting you and kept kind of pushing this, into you until finally it was just overwhelming and just kind of really broke, and it was great. So
yeah. Now, how long was this in theaters?
I don't think very long. So I know I missed it by a week or something like that. So it was, let me see. Cause I know like,
you don't have to look it up. I was just curious because unfortunately this is just one of those that the previews were good, but they didn't really grab me to get me to want to pay the money to go and see it in cinemas.
Well, and for most of it, I wasn't part of the unlimited plan anymore. So again, it was like, do I really want to spend $15 to go see this in theaters when I know it's going to be in streaming in another couple weeks? So
it's just changed. It's changed where, you've heard both of us, we've both kind of harped on the movie theater experience. And
I think these subscription models are definitely the way to go, or the way to at least kind of keep theaters in. However, it also doesn't work with a lot of people, especially those who have kids. Cause like for me, I can just, Laura and I can just pick up and go, hey, we're going to go see a movie tonight and head out.
I wonder, I'm floating this. I don't think they'll ever do it, but with a movie like this, it not being, a big tentpole action adventure fantasy movie, I just wonder if they're going to have to start tiering the pricing depending on the genre or gauged interest, or, is this an $8 ticket and then
the
Marvel Guardians film, 3 is a $12 ticket. Like I don't,
well, I'll take a $12 ticket.
Clearly I'm out of touch with movie theater ticket prices, cause those are dirt cheap numbers, but I wonder if I think they've explored doing that, tiering the pricing. Cause I think if this would have been a lower tier ticket, maybe you would have gotten more people to go to it. But I think a lot of us are thinking the same way. I'm going to watch this style of movie at home.
Yeah. And as much as, I've talked about, really feel that most movies should be watched in the theater because that's the format that they're kind of shot for. There's definitely movies that are more likely, like you definitely need to see it in theater or you need to see it in IMAX. Whereas something like this, while definitely would benefit from being in a theater, especially if you have some type of amazing like Atmos sound, in addition to, the huge screen, you're not going to lose that much by just watching it at your home theater. So, or your TV in the living room. And
frankly, with the setup I have, it didn't feel too much different than if I'd gone to a cinema and watched it. And so it was I had an absolute blast watching this. I'll probably watch it again at some point in the not too distant future, because it is a really fun story. I was kind of suspicious of how engaging the story really would be when it was announced. I was like, really?
Well, again, because I know it was a big deal.
Well, yeah, I know it was a big deal that they landed him, and there's lots of wild stuff about his specific contract with Nike. And I won't give that away for anybody that's not completely familiar with the story, but there's plenty of intrigue with the way all this went down and effectively what Nike was in 1984, which is not only were they a smaller company, they're just a vastly different company altogether as far as who they sold shoes to. Like they don't even look like themselves today. So that was really, it's cool to see. As far as the shooting style, it kind of reminded me a little bit of The Big Short. Mm-hmm. That kind of energy.
That. Yeah.
You could tell that they were looking for creative ways to keep the energy up, because it's just really a lot of people talking, right? Like it is. It's not. There's no shootouts at Nike. There's no.
No one gets kidnapped.
No. So I thought they did a good job of like mixing up the camera angles, but it didn't feel over edited. The soundtrack is like just stuffed full. From the time the opening credits like come up, it's just one early 80s hit after the other.
Yeah, Laura and I almost had to stop and just kind of like go back and like listen to some of these songs as they like came back on, and just were like, nope, this is a banger. This one is also a banger. Like the whole soundtrack is just like, we just need to make a playlist called Air Soundtrack and just listen to all these.
I've not pulled it up on Spotify yet, but I'm sure it's
yeah.
already up there, and I'm sure it's for sale too. They were already ahead of us with the marketing.
No, it did just such a good job. I mean, the attention to detail, the way they did it, like you said, go back to the kind of how they shot it. Like it was a lot of medium shots and close up shots. So you can kind of have that you're in the mix with them. You can kind of see their interactions, their emotions a little bit better than these like wider shots. So it's definitely different from like, say, one of those like fantasy shows like Game of Thrones where like they show you the big table with everyone kind of talking around. Like this kind of got you much more into the mix. And was just, I think that helped, like you said, kind of was able to see some of the tension on the different characters' faces and kind of be able to like empathize with them a little bit more, sympathize with them. It's not that long. I mean, it is an R-rated movie, so obviously keep an eye on that. But.
Yeah, earmuff the kids, because it is the language is substantial, but a lot of it emanates for just one or two characters. It's kind of weird like that, but
yeah. So going out of this, I'm going to say I'm really excited to see what Ben does next directing. So
yeah, I think we're going to wrap up Cinema A to B on air again.
And go off air.
Go off air. Yeah. No, again, we totally encourage you to watch this if you haven't already, and
let us know your thoughts, and see you next week.
Yeah, thanks for catching us. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.